Well, hey, race fans, back with another interview on the Mason and Racing Videos page. Thank you for tuning on in. Be sure to go say hi to our sponsor, Kramnik DD Meats out of Medina, North Dakota. If you're not sure where Medina, North Dakota is, it's just between Bismarck and Jamestown, just off of I-94 in North Dakota. So if you're passing through, hauling a load or whatever it may be, and you got some time, swing on in just off the interstate and check out all the products they have. They have a whole bunch of meat products, including and then produce, of course. And so meat market, sausage processing, butcher shop, whatever you may need as far as meat concerns go. Talk to Joe, Melinda, and the whole crew, and they'll get you hooked up with some really delicious food. And so thank you so much to the entire crew over there for supporting the interviews on the Mason Aaron Racing Videos page. And for our guests today, we are heading over to Minnesota. A couple of the WISSOTA Street Stock drivers, Dylan and Joe Arndt, on today. How are you doing, you guys?
Good, how are you?
Keeping warm. We were talking just off air that I was in Florida and I should have stayed there for a couple more weeks. Yeah, it's been an interesting winter because like we haven't had a ton of snow, but like we've gotten like teased almost in a sense. Like we've had some nice weather and it's like okay, the snow's melting, and then we just get hit with a wave of cold and snow on top of it. So I'm sure you guys are kind of getting it itching and prepared for the season.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
definitely get ready for the warm weather. So, but
Yeah, and so
Yep.
both of you are originally from Ortonville, Minnesota, but I believe Dylan, you live in Morris currently, correct?
So I actually moved back home, believe it or
Okay.
not. Yep, I was there for a short while though. Kind of got married and had a baby and found a house and kind of got work rolling and then realized that a lot of intermediate family was still back in Ortonville, so it was easier just to make the commute for work and keep family at home. So we ended up coming back.
Well, that makes sense. Good
Mhm.
to have Joe as okay, how does that relation work? Is Joe the uncle then? Yes.
Yep.
yep.
I I'm not well versed and I always reverse it in my head when I'm trying to explain it to people. Yeah. So perfect. That's awesome. So I've gotten to know you and your family over the last couple of years. And so kind of before we get into like the racing stuff going into this season, kind of what kind of started the racing bug through the Arndt family? Kind of go back to the very beginning stages.
Very beginning. Well, a lot of guys have the story like, my dad did it, my brother did it, my uncle did it, all that. We didn't really have that. We just went to a few races and we said, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. And one day dad found a car online and we just went for it and didn't have a clue what we were doing, but just started asking questions and yeah, kind of made our way somehow. We did have Derek Reek and Travis Tejan were local guys from the area that had raced for quite a while when we were getting into it, and they were good about what to do and what not to do and all that stuff. So yeah, there wasn't really a lot of reason or method behind it. It was just, hey, that looks fun, let's go try it.
Man, and it seems like that's like harder to find nowadays. People just willing to try something like that. Because like getting into a race car, it's like it looks like fun from the stands, but like I there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes of trying to get like an operation started.
Yeah. We were fortunate there was a guy up north that was selling out his operation and or not his the car that he had, they were changing classes, things like that. So just had a turnkey car that was ready to go. Didn't know anything about it, didn't really have to. It was just something to get on the track. So
Okay. And I was kind of looking doing a little research before this, and of course you two currently race so street stocks, and that was that a like a pure stock that you first raced?
yeah, it was I raced it for maybe, I don't know, Joe can recall this because there were some long nights, but maybe 5 nights total. We tried like 10, but um we had a lot of just tranny problems, motor problems, that kind of thing. And obviously being new, there was a lot of hurdles to try to get over there. So um but it was a pure stock for that. It was like from July to the end of that year. So
Okay. Interesting. So, of course, you being the older brother, Dylan, and Joe being the younger. Joe, what was your main role as Dylan was kind of starting out in racing?
Well, I was just kind of that little chubby kid running around with a taco, I guess, when we first started out. But then, it kind of evolved into grinding tires and stuff like that. And eventually just kind of kept learning a little more, and And by the time we were done the first time, I guess I had pretty good understanding of most of it anyway. So, I mean, when I started, we were pretty well in the loop then. But yeah, I guess I think when we started, I was about 10. So I was fortunate enough to start pretty young and get a good understanding before I got to start. So, but
Yeah, and I think when I started to travel a little bit more, kind of around the 2016, 2017 is kind of when you guys looks like kind of got started. And I was kind of getting familiar with the people around that area, kind of going to Watertown, kind of going out to Madison once or twice. And then all of a sudden it's just like there was no Arnts at the track. So was that when life started to get a little bit busy for you, Dylan, or what was kind of the break period like?
It was, yeah. We had a couple hard long run years too that definitely added to it. So there was kind of a big shift there. We gave one run at the National Rookie of the Year, did like 66 shows that year, just a long year, lot just long hard summer. Had a couple of them, and then yeah, I was looking to get married, buy a house, all that good stuff, and Joe was getting later in high school, busy in sports, so just the whole combination was like, maybe we'll just pull back and kind of regroup, and yeah, just took a little bit of a break and kind of got reestablished. And then one day, Dad and Joe called me and said they were looking at buying a car and asked if I wanted to turn wrenches. And I said, if I'm turning wrenches, I'd sure much rather just have a car.
There you go. You
Oh,
gotta, yeah, I gotta come with some contingencies, right?
yep.
There you go. Yeah. So that's awesome that you kind of got back into it after a break. A lot of people don't do that either. Kind of just like, kind of just, just keep away from racing. Did you still go to the races though during that time off?
We talked and said we were going to go a ton, and we didn't, which is kind of funny because I know some guys say it's like an alcoholic going, recovering alcoholic going back to the bar. Like it just, you stay away or you're going to jump back into it. So I don't know if that was part of it or if we just were busy with other stuff, but we didn't go as much as we thought we really were going to, and but then we missed it that much more. So I think that's why it was easier to jump back in later. So
Yeah, and you guys are in a really cool area. So like with Ortonville, it's just across the border from South Dakota. So you kind of got a good mix of tracks within about a good hour, hour and a half. Where would you consider your home track to be, so to speak?
I guess I'd say Madison. It's always kind of been home to us. Montevideo is just as close. Fridays sometimes are a little bit harder with work schedules and stuff. When we're able to run them, Watertown was our Sunday track, and like you say, they were all Madison's a half hour, Monty's 45 minutes, and Watertown's an hour. So we're pretty fortunate that way. There's a lot of guys that have to drive pretty far to just get to their one Saturday night track. So
Yeah, that's a nice little triangle to kind of situate yourself into, and it's always kind of interesting to trying to explain. If I tell my family like I'm going to go to a fiesta in Madison this weekend, they're like, "Where the heck is that?" I'm like, I don't know exactly how to explain where they're at.
yep. Well, everyone calls Ortonville the bottom of the bump. So
Bottom of the bump.
when
Okay.
you're looking at Minnesota, we're the bottom of the bump.
Okay. That's a good way to describe it. I'm sure if I told my mom that, she'd have no clue what that means,
Probably.
which would be fun because it's kind of fun to confuse her every now and then. I'm just kidding, Mom. So, Joe, as you're kind of getting into this racing scene kind of around that 2022 area, what was your mindset kind of getting in the behind the wheel of a race car?
Well, I guess, I mean, we started in the pure stock in Madison, and uh, unlike when we started with Dylan, he ran about 6 races in the pure stock, then jumped into the streeters. And after doing that, we just kind of decided it might be better for me to stick a couple years in the pure stock. So I ran 2 years in the Monty Madison pure stock class, and then just at the end of last year, we decided to jump into a streeter a little sooner than we thought after the wreck last year. So, but yeah, I guess that's kind of how we got started anyway. And we had a pretty good understanding, like I said before. And so getting back in wasn't too bad. The guy who bought the car from Austin Moen, he was really good about helping us with all the setup and stuff and just getting us a good baseline anyway. So we could kind of just go from there. So, but
Okay, it's always interesting to hear like where the car comes from and who raced
yep.
that car. So I remember Austin Moen. I never really got to talk to him, but it's like he was there and then he was gone.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think he raised pure stock for a couple of years, but he did a lot more in the Hornet. I think he did that for a couple of years too. But
Okay.
so
How did
yeah.
it was it a big challenge kind of getting used to racing the pure stock and getting used to racing on tracks such as Monty and Madison?
Um, a little bit. I mean, I'd say the first 3 nights it took me probably to just get comfortable anyway. I mean, first couple nights I was usually down by half a lap, and the goal was just not to get lapped. So, but then after that, yeah, I guess it didn't go too terrible. I guess we ended up. I think I got my first win my first year after about 12 nights. So, which
Wow.
was definitely quite a bit of luck, but uh, definitely a fun way to get started anyway. So, but
Well, hey, in racing, you need a little bit of luck along with the skill too. So you
oh
got to
yeah,
kind of take the wins when you can get them.
yep, that's for sure. But
Now, I always ask this with whether it's pure stock guys I talk to or street stocks. Is there a big difference when you go from a pure stock to a street stock in general?
um, I'd say with like the more WISSOTA Street or more soda pure stocks and like I mean the Madison Speedway pure stocks are pretty well advanced for a pure stock now. Um, I mean basically the only difference is the carb and they have to run the manifolds and there's a couple other things too, but they figure about 100 horsepower difference. So I mean it's really not too much different. I'd say just the more suspension felt a lot more different, and then that extra 100 horsepower made a difference too. So, but other than that, it was pretty similar making the jump last year. So,
Because I remember, because like the last couple of years at the WISSOTA 100, for example, I've seen pure stocks that have kind of raced and been pretty competitive over at that 100 in like the preliminary races or heat races, whatever it may be. So I could see how could be a good transitional class from a pure stock to that street stock class.
yeah, it actually, I mean, to me, it makes it quite nice because it's kind of, to me, that's kind of the intent of the class to get you ready for the street stock. So, I mean, if they can limit it down with a little bit smaller motor and keep the sort of same suspension components, I mean, it makes a pretty easy transition. So, but
Yeah, so now you get to race against your brother Dylan, who's got
oh yeah,
several years experience in the street stock
yep.
class. How do you two kind of work together? Do you kind of, do you have any like, like battles with one another, or do you kind of just try to push each other as far as you can?
No, I'd say I think it's definitely been a positive. I mean, we can kind of work with each other, talk to each other about the track conditions, what he felt versus what I felt. I mean, I'd say it's definitely good for the both of us. But yeah, I don't know what Dylan thinks, whatever. But
No, I'd say the same thing. Where I really had to laugh was I think mom was the most nervous when that happened. It was fine. It was nervous enough with both boys racing, and then putting them in the same class was one thing. And I know the first couple of times we're like, what are the odds we'll get in the same heat? What are the odds we'll start next to each other? And the first few races, it was like you couldn't have picked it any better. It was side by side, like middle of the pack, like right where you wouldn't want to start, right next to somebody that you wouldn't want to hit, and all that fun stuff. So it made it fun. But I know mom said she was really on her toes for those first couple of races when that's how we decided to start. So
It never fails, whether it's family members or teammates, where it's just like, okay, it's like as long as we don't get in the same heat, we'll be fine. And you see the lineup come out, it's like, you got to be kidding me. This is rigged. Because I think was your first street stock race at I-94, Joe?
yeah, yep, that's that was the first couple nights we started out just to get ready for the 100 because that was kind of the main focus of it or whatever. But um, yeah, I think we did a couple nights up in Fergus, and then we did the Madtown Showdown was the only race we ran last year. So.
Okay, yeah, because I remember seeing that car, like, or I remember seeing on Facebook that you had a car coming out, and when you showed up at 994, I'm like, that's a good place to try it out. Although that place is, it's kind of intimidating too in some aspects as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you watch some guys like Vogel and all of them when they're just freaking rubbing that rear bumper on the wall. It's definitely definitely intimidating, that's for sure. But no, it's getting me one of my favorite tracks here. So it's it's been a lot of fun.
That's good, and I believe, if I remember correctly, you won a heat race at the WISSOTA 100 as well.
I did, yeah. I was yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting to, but I mean, all the cards fell right and it just worked out, I guess. So, but
That's one of my favorite clips from the 100 is, well, try to get you crossing the line, and I saw where your family was sitting up in the stands, and I got a shot of your dad giving a high five to, I believe, your sister. So
oh
it's one of
yeah,
my favorite
no,
clips.
yeah, it was definitely exciting, I guess. But
Here you
yeah.
go. So that was kind of like a good end of the 2024 season. So kind of what's in store for the 2025 season for both of you?
Well, I mean, we're obviously going to run the same thing, just ease and everything else. But our one main trailer has all our tools and everything like that, and we've talked before, we wouldn't want to split and go different ways or anything like that. So I think we're actually looking at probably following the tour a little bit this year. We were able to make it work with both of our work schedules, and I know mom and dad are looking at kind of the same thing, and so good chance, especially for like I know when I did my rookie year, I got around to some different tracks, but I know Joe's been kind of stuck to just the local ones with the pier stocks, so we kind of wanted to get out and about anyway. So obviously that's not every weekend, so we'll like to come back to home tracks on the off weekends. But um, yeah, if it works and we can get out and see some different tracks and that kind of thing, we kind of both agreed that'd be fun. So that's the hopes, but it seems like things always change. So we'll just kind of see what the summer brings.
Yeah, it's totally understandable, especially like I think of last year too. Like I always think like when the schedules come out, it's like, okay, you see some of like the April races. So like, okay, where can I kind of try like venture out like very beginning of the season and kind of get some early footage? And then of course Mother Nature is just like, nope, no April racing for you. So I'm like, okay, so I guess I gotta adjust some things on the fly. And so I'm sure that's the same deal with racers, because I'm sure you'd like to get some seat time before you kind of get out to some of the bigger races as well.
Yeah, that's always nice. Thankfully, a couple of the local tracks are pretty good about testing tunes, and we usually go try to hit a couple of them. If it's not a real race night, it's at least just some place to get out on the track and make sure everything feels how it's supposed to, and all that good stuff. So,
Is there a specific track or a couple of tracks that like you maybe haven't raced at, or if you raced at like once or twice, that you be really excited to go check out again?
hmm, I guess I don't know that it'd be in the schedule, but one that I used to really like to run, and I'd like to be able to get Joe over there. I don't know if we'd ever make it. Would be Huron. That was always an old fun 100 track. So um, I don't know what it was, but I always really liked running there. So I'd say that was one of my old favorites. It'd be fun to get back to. Other than that, I like our local tracks. I like I-94. I mean, seems like all the tracks do a pretty good job of getting the track put together, listen to the drivers, all that. So I guess I'm pretty open. It'd probably be more Joe on any tracks that he's seen maybe me go to, but couldn't do in a pure stock. So I guess yeah, I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess definitely one hit right away was Fergus, and then yeah, I know we're looking around the tour, so I'll be interested to get up to Lisbon and Jamestown and a couple of Wisconsin tracks too if it works. So um, yeah, I guess Fergus is probably one of my top ones I want to hit, and I got to hit that last year. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the tour this summer. It should be a good time. So
One of the local tracks that you kind of have in your area kind of prepare you for all sorts of different things. I mean, you have like Dylan, you've raced casino however many times. That's like as tight as it can get as track size goes.
Yeah,
Fiesta can be pretty speedy and fast, and Madison's kind of like a good in between, depending on the night, I guess. So, I
right.
mean, you got some good tracks in your backyard that kind of prepare you for anything.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. We kind of said that rookie year when I was doing that. I mean, everyone said like if you want to get used to the car, go out and get seat time, do everything you can. Um, and we had some other guys that were running for some national points and things like that, and we just were able to make it work and run a bunch of shows. And yeah, we were able to hit Wilmer, Monty Madison, and Casino pretty much every weekend. And those all four are, like you say, can be very different tracks and require a lot of different things. So it was a good learning year for sure.
When you say that, when you kind of go through that 4 day swing, I mean, I do like a typical 3 to 4 day swing every weekend during the summer, but just thinking about doing that with a race car, that just sounds insane.
Yeah, I would say it is, and any other guy out there that does it could say so. I will say, we learned very fast that it was really nice having Joe not having a car during those times because he was pretty humble earlier, but he was the everything guy, whether it was dents or gears or tires. Um, and we learned very quickly when he got a car that all of a sudden that was all your own work, and if you need an extra set of hands, you didn't have them because he was probably fixing the same thing on his, and so I'd say if we both had cars, that'd be pretty tough to pull off weekend after weekend. But yeah, it was regardless, it was a lot of work, and you just have that Monday through Wednesday to get ready for the next swing, so it's a pretty quick turnaround too. But
Yeah, and honestly, that Monday through Wednesday swing is almost probably like the most important days of the week just to get everything maintained and kind of get looked over and everything.
yeah, for sure. And there were some weeks where it was kind of fun to just see what you get done in that short stretch, and then there's other weeks where you kind of look back and you'd miss something that might have cost you a little bit the next night, and then you start kind of revisiting the maintenance program and all that too. So there's give and take there.
Yeah, well, that's exciting that you'll be kind of venturing out a little bit this year. I'm really excited to kind of. Oh, well, that means I'll probably get to see you guys more throughout the 2025 summers. So that's music to my ears. Well, as far as before I let you go, any sponsors, any crew that's kind of jumping on board in 2025 that's helping you out, would like to give you guys a shout out there.
Yeah, I can run through the sponsors quick. I guess we got Team Fisher Realty, Sturdy Engines, Pete's Poles, Midwest Irrigation Electric, Artie's Bait and Tackle, Econo Lodge Hotel, um, Pro Auto Collision and Glass, Furman Repair, CarQuest, Go Fasters Power Sports and Marine, Conray Electric, Waldner Specialty Meats, Spuds One Stop, J. Nelson Supply, Gunner General Contracting, and Superior Industries. So
Good set of sponsors behind you. That's awesome to hear. Got a lot of them too, so got a lot of
yeah,
backing.
definitely thankful for that. And yeah, obviously couldn't do without mom, dad, my girlfriend. She's definitely a good sport with all of it. Because I mean, most couples my age are at the lake cabin for the weekend, and most of the time we're at the racetrack. But she's always been good, and yeah, very thankful for that. So
Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about this because, of course, you got into a street stock a little earlier than you probably planned. Can you kind of talk to us about how that kind of all transpired?
yeah, so we were yeah we were racing in Madison anyway, kind of in a points race for the uh track points anyway, and yeah, I believe it was middle of July or so. Um, we ended up getting turned on the back straightaway and ended up nosing into the wall, and then barrel rolled about 4 times. And the car caught on fire, so that was yeah, definitely some excitement for the girlfriend and mom, I guess. But um, yeah, then there wasn't much left of that car, so then we had to kind of just start from square one and go find a straight stock. So, but
Yeah, I can't remember which track I was at that night, but it came across my feed during one of the breaks, and I was like, "Oh gosh, that looked bad."
yeah, believe it or not, I mean, inside the car, I was like, oh yeah, I rolled a couple times, whatever. It was all fine. And I watched the video, I was like, ooh, it didn't look very good, but I
That's a
was
lot of
thankful. The car held up, so it did its job anyway. But
Well, that's what a lot of drivers say. Like they like a lot of times, like being inside the car, it seems like it's a lot safer than what it looks like from the outside.
yeah, definitely. I mean, even I haven't heard one of them NASCAR guys talking how slow it feels just when you're rolling, whatever. And I was like, hey, it can't feel slow. And then went out and did it. It's like, yeah, you're pretty much just sitting there, just counting 1, 2, 3. I was like, well, I guess we're doing it. But
Yeah, hopefully that's the only time you end up doing that.
yeah, hopefully. But
No,
yeah.
that well, I mean, it's cool to see you in the street stock class. Of course, of course, it stinks that it kind of abbreviated the pure stock, but street stocks are my favorite class, so the more the merrier, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been on the bucket list to get into a street stock, and yeah, it's been so fun so far. So
I guess the last question I have is like, any future plans as far as racing goes? Are you just going to stay in the street stocks for a while, or you kind of want to venture off and do different things eventually?
I think we're kind of hard set on the street stocks for now. I guess haven't even really talked to them much after that, so that'll probably be that for a while. And I guess if anything else strikes us, we'll look into it. I guess so.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'd agree with Joe on that. What I always tell people is I say it's some guys are all excited to get to B mods and A mods and all that, and I always have said like be really hard to give up fenders because you get to them places like casino and stuff like that, and you're rubbing doors and fenders, and I'd rather do that than be bouncing front tires off of each other. So definitely like you say, a fun class, a lot of cars. I mean, especially tour nights, 30 cars every night. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat that. So,
That is a good point too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he might have a dent or two, but it's easier to kind of pound those out versus tie rods and all that and everything.
yeah,
Probably a little cheaper too.
right.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you two taking some time out of your schedules to chat with us and get to know you a little bit. If you'd like to go follow them on Facebook as the Arndt Racing Team, so you can stay up to date on all of their whereabouts throughout the season and their progress during 2025 and beyond. And so, thank you, Joe and Dylan, and stay warm the rest of the winter, and we'll see you in the summer.
Sounds good. You
Yeah,
also.
sounds good.